This is the moment we've been waiting for. Since the hours we gathered together on a night in November, painfully aware of the long fight ahead. Since the day we decided that we would not give in and grab the hand of our nearest neighbor and march to the streets. Since the moment millions joined the chorus to tell the world we would not stand for injustice against any one of us. We marched, we rallied, we fought, we steeled ourselves, and we rose up as corruption tore through the White House like a wildfire. We rose up as our country changed in ways that were unrecognizable, and we showed up for every single battle. While those at the top stoked the fires of division, each day Americans made the choice to come together. We are still in the streets, we are still fighting, knowing that what we fight for matters more than anything. And this is the moment we've been waiting for. This is our opportunity to reject the politics of hate, chaos, division, and change the course of history. This November, we have an opportunity to elect a leader who will join us as we build an America for all. The moment where we grab our family, our friends, and show up to change the world.
Welcome to Politics and Flows, episode 13, Lucky 13, Big Ideas series. On the heels of a delightful conversation yesterday afternoon with Cori Bush, it's an honor to have my dear friend, great friend, progressive champion from Florida 26, Debbie Mucarsel-Powell. But before I welcome my dear Debbie to the program, I just want to offer a few points to ponder and reminder of some of the things Move On has going on and the larger progressive movement. This Sunday, we will have our second installment of the Your Vote is Power live stream featuring Move On leaders, movement leaders, and a question and answer session with the cast of Hamilton. Yes, you heard that right. The cast of Hamilton will be part of our Sunday series this weekend. You heard it here first. Thank you, Michael Crawford, for that. And these live stream events are the 2020 incarnation of Move On's Ready to Resist calls in 2017, the Resist to Win calls in 2018 that helped us flip the House, where tens upon tens of thousands of people came together in community to be inspired, informed, and most importantly, mobilized. We're not here for your entertainment, right? We're here to mobilize you to do the important work ahead of us to awaken our democracy from the nightmare of the Trump era and set us on the path of achieving the dreams we have for a government that is effective, kind, compassionate, and serves the needs of all, not just those of a privileged few of a lighter hue. Real talk. So the Senate confirmation of Amy Coney Bryant has continued today, and rather than comment on the egregious rushed nature of the confirmation fight while doing nothing about COVID relief, it's more important for Senate Republicans to pass a Supreme Court justice than to help millions of people who are either sick and or unemployed. That's crazy. All I'll say is that in addition to all the calling and protesting and demanding that we want for these senators to do their job to honor the will of the people, look, if they choose not to honor the will of the people, don't be cynical and throw your hands up, vote them out of office. That's how democracy works, right? So we'll just vote them out. Like, we demand, sure, but if they don't do what we want, it's time to get rid of them. And we can begin with Lindsey Graham and Tom Tillis and Cory Gardner and Joni Ernst and Susan Collins, just to name a few. But if they don't do the will of the people, 62% or more of the people say that they should wait. But if they don't do it, get them out. Enough. Like, don't be cynical, get active, right? And with less than 3 weeks for election day until election day, we have begun to focus on voter mobilization with our friends in the Vote Tripling Initiative. But I also want to encourage those of you who have already voted, don't just throw up your hands and show your sticker. Phone bank for Debbie, right? Phone bank for Senate races in Alaska, phone bank for Mississippi, phone bank for some of these tight races with smaller populations where you making contact with a voter could make all the difference, not just for that race, but for the balance of power in the Senate. We're seeing record energy across the country. Millions of people have already voted as a repudiation of Trumpism and Republican destructionism. I didn't say obstructionism, destructionism, because they're negligent and their callousness is destructive. So in the spirit of message discipline, before we get to the main event, Move On has several campaigns going concurrently. So Your Vote is Power and Mobilize to Win. Everyone can plug in to reach high potential voters as well as mobilize their networks via vote tripling. So again, it's highly likely that election returns will not be finished on November 3rd. So let's get prepared for that now. And we are a multi-generational, multiracial coalition group of regular people who would like democracy to take its natural course and let all votes be counted without interference. No drama, right? It's just democracy and mathematics. So whether you vote by mail, drop off your ballot, vote early in person, or vote on election day, your vote should be counted and your vote should be heard. So moveon.org/mobilize to win is where you can log in to do vote tripling information, or you can text "We Got Us" to 668-366 to get involved in our voter mobilization efforts. And again, reminder to put your comments in the chat because we will be monitoring them and I will offer them to Debbie in due course. So without further delay, it's my honor to introduce my dear guest, Debbie Mucarsel-Powell. Debbie immigrated to the United States from South America, Ecuador, with her mother and sisters when she was 14. To help her family make ends meet, she worked at a donut shop at the early morning shift and then worked her way through college and grad school to do amazing things, which we'll talk about soon. Debbie was elected in 2018 in a tight race decided by less than 4,000 votes. She flipped a seat red to blue, y'all, by less than 4,000 votes. So don't say your vote doesn't count. It matters. So get over that. It matters, right? And she ran because the same opportunities that allowed her her family to improve their lives, she thinks that everyone should have those same opportunities. You know, they've been disappearing for too many people, and so that's enough of that. And she's also in the 116th Congress that's had so many firsts. One of the most underreported firsts is she's the first South American person ever elected to Congress. So shout out to all my other firsts. This is an important one as well. Let me also add that the moment I met Debbie, she and I got along famously, right? When Move On endorsed over 100 candidates, one of the districts I got to visit in 2018 was her district in support of canvassing efforts in the Keys. So I've actually been to the district and been in the activist community and knocked on doors and the whole thing. So I feel a special kinship there. And y'all know I'm a yoga teacher. Her sister's a yoga teacher, so we also have that in common. In 2019, she also took a stand against Child Detention Center in Homestead, Florida, and we helped organize a lightning protest there and influence presidential candidates to come from the debate to Homestead to take a stand against the cruelty shown in the Homestead base, and it closed, right? So lest you think your activism doesn't matter, it may not happen when you want to, but we made a difference there. And I've watched with great admiration how she takes principled stands rooted in her values and works not only to represent her district, but her constituents, and to serve as a mentor to other Latina candidates running for office this cycle. I've been on nearly every live stream you've been on. So welcome to Politics and Flows, Big Ideas Edition 13, Member of Congress representing Florida's 26th Congressional, my dear friend, mi querida amiga, luchadora congresista, Debbie Mucarsel-Powell. Welcome, Debbie.
Reggie, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited about also the weekend that you mentioned. You're going to have the Hamilton, the whole crew there. That's awesome.
Yeah, so this weekend, that's on the 18th.
That's awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. Look, the first thing that I have to say is what I was telling you earlier. Knowing that you're behind me, that we have Move On behind this race already gives me so much optimism and good energy. You were here with me in 2018. You're absolutely right. And I knew, when you and I met, I felt that energy behind me, and I'm feeling it now with you, with everyone that's tuning in right now. It's exactly what we need. No drama. Do what you need to do. Don't get caught up in all the discussions on, I can't believe they're doing this. Well, believe it. This is happening. We have the power. We have the power with our vote, with our voice. And we need to remember that. And I was thinking about that actually yesterday, that in all these turbulent times that we've been facing, with all the division, with all the hate that has come from all sides, the good thing is that I think America has woken up. I think people have woken up. And I'm seeing that here, Reggie. I wish you could come down. We've had rally after rally on the weekends. They're getting larger. They're getting bigger. People are proud to belong to a team that's going to represent good, positive change, unit, balance, bringing back the values of who we are. Like you said, I'm an immigrant. I came here when I was 14 from Ecuador. And I remember when I came here. I remember it like it was yesterday. And one of the things that always struck me in America is that no one cared what your last name was. No one cared what zip code you lived in. if you worked hard, people respected you, and you could buy your own car. I started working at 15 at a donut shop, and I started saving for my car. My mom helped me out to get my, it was a used Nissan. I thought it was like a Mercedes-Benz at the time. It was like a 10-year-old used Nissan, but it was mine. And I had done that by myself working. And slowly, you understand that in America, if you work hard, if you're committed to what you want to do, anything is possible. And because of that, I am now the first South American that has ever been elected to serve in the U.S. House. And it's such an honor. And I don't want to be the last. I always say that. And that's why I take my responsibility very seriously. I need to help and pave the way to other young Latina women who want to be involved in government, because it's not easy, Reggie. There's a lot of there are a lot of obstacles, but there are also a lot of opportunities. And so I'm just grateful to you and Move On and everyone that has been involved in my race. Thank you so much. I'm facing a tough challenge. I'm facing a very tough challenge.
And thank you for that. So before we dive into the issues, how are you? How's your family? How's everybody? How I want to approach from a personal level, because I know you personally. How are you doing? How's your family?
Thank you, Reggie. Thank God we're doing well. My mom lives with me, and so we're being extra careful. The kids started going to school here in Florida. The governor said everyone has to go back to school. They've decided that all the kids have to go back to school. So I'm a little anxious about that. And we have had a couple of school closures already because they found COVID. It's expected that's going to happen. So I'm not going to lie, as a mom, I'm anxious about that. And also, if my kids, for whatever reason, are exposed to it, then my mom who lives with me is also going to be exposed. So thank God we're healthy. Thank God everyone's okay. The good thing is that I'm here with them right now. I've had to travel a lot back and forth in DC, but I'm here right now. So we're doing well. We're doing well right now. Thanks, Reggie.
Of course. And can you tell us a little bit about Florida's 26th district? Like, I know because I've traveled it.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit different than most. So you have a different demography and a different topography and some very unique characteristics. So tell us about it, and also tell us what you love most about representing Florida 26.
Okay. Well, I like to say that, and you've been here, Reggie, so I'm not even lying or exaggerating, but I think it's one of the most beautiful districts in the United States. My district includes parts of Miami-Dade County, so like the western part of Miami, the southern part of Miami-Dade, and then all of the Florida Keys all the way down to Key West. We have some incredible national parks. We have the only living reef in the entire U.S. continental United States. So we have a beautiful coral reef along the coast of the Keys. It's a very diverse district. Close to 70% of the people that live in my district are Hispanic, and about 12 to 13% are African Americans. But within the Hispanic community and the African American community, there's so much diversity. We have Bahamian Americans, Haitian Americans, we have Cubans, Mexicans, Venezuelans, Colombians, and you find those pockets all over my district. It's like a microcosm of America, is what I like to say also. We have a farm area in the southern part of the district, a very rich agricultural area, and we also have commercial fishermen and recreational fishermen that really contribute a lot of to the economy of Florida, the state of Florida. So it's extremely diverse. It's one of the reasons why I think it's such a complicated district, right? Because you have to talk to so many different groups of people. But at the end, what ties us are the same values that we all have. I mean, the families in my district are hardworking families, Reggie. A lot of them have been essential workers through the pandemic. So they're worried about their healthcare. Parents are worried about the education for their kids. Many of these families just want those opportunities, the same opportunities that I had growing up. Those are the opportunities that I'm trying to protect for the families in my district. I feel like in this district, we've become a family. I've been working here. I didn't come from politics. I worked for 20 years in different nonprofits, but most of the time at the university at FIU. And my story, my immigrant story, is what I think links all of us together in this district. A lot of people live in Florida's 26th district here because they fled Latin America, Central America, whether it was because of poverty or because of violence and the regimes that they were escaping. That's why they came here, and they want those opportunities to make it. So that's what links us together. I I love this district. I love being down here when I'm not traveling to DC. And I hope that I continue to represent the families. They need that voice up in Washington.
Absolutely, and thank you for that. And one of the things I most admire about you is that everything you do has so much integrity, right? You take tough positions rooted in conscience that may have political blowback. And with all due respect to some of my progressive brothers and sisters, like in more liberal leaning districts, like for some people, it's easier for you to be progressive. So like, shout out to you for like having integrity and doing the right thing, even when, like the district is complicated. So let's talk about a few of the issues that are important to you to bring light to them. So you don't need me to tell you that we have an issue with gun violence in this country. Right. So tell me a little bit about some of your ideas that you have done in the 116th, but also like about gun reform. So tell me about some of the things that you want to see with respect to gun reform in the United States.
Yeah, Reggie, this is a very personal issue for me. And I've been an advocate for gun safety measures for a long time. I lost my dad when I was 24 years old to gun violence. And you never forget that moment when you receive that phone call. To be told that you lost your father in such a violent, cruel manner. And part of the area in my district has some of the highest rates of gun violence for kids under the age of 18. So while I was campaigning in 2018, the Parkland shooting occurred, 45 minutes north of my district. And a week after that happened, I went and I met with the families and with some of the students that their classmates had been shot right next to them. And, my personal story, meeting all these families, having parents in my district that have lost their kids is one of the main issues that drive me every single day to do whatever I possibly can to bring gun safety measures. And this makes sense for our kids. It makes sense for our communities. It makes sense for law enforcement. People don't talk about that, but law enforcement, police officers also want gun safety measures because so many people get their hands on guns when they should have never, ever had that chance to buy a gun. So one of the things we did in the Judiciary Committee, we passed the universal background check bill. Over 90% of Americans agree we should have thorough, violent checks for criminals. If you committed a crime, if you have violence at home, if you are a domestic abuser, you should not be allowed to purchase a gun. I can't tell you, and for whoever's listening to this right now, we were 11 hours in that committee room, 11 hours. We had students demand action sitting with us, moms demand action, parents who had lost their kids at Parkland. And the Republicans in that committee were pulling every trick in the book to try to block a bill that 90% of Americans believe in. So like you said, what we need to do is vote them out. Because thank God, because of this pandemic, some of that has been alleviated. But believe me, there is gun violence happening in America every single day. We passed the universal background check bill. Of course, Mitch McConnell and the Senate they haven't moved on it. That's just the first step. There are so many other things we need to do. We have Ethan's Law, which would require gun owners to safely store their arms at home. That is not too much to ask, just like we ask people to wear their seatbelts. It's just making sure that kids don't get their hands on guns and shoot themselves and kill themselves. That's one of the highest rates of gun violence in this country is accidents that happen at home. Little kids that get their hands in their parents' gun because they didn't safely store their guns. And Ethan was a little boy where that happened. And that's why it's called Ethan's Law. We need to pass red flag laws. We did that in Florida after the Parkland shooting. We should be able to do that at a national level. We need to ban AR-15s. Those are weapons of war. They do not belong in the streets. And I will continue to work on this. I'm one of the chairs of the Gun Violence Task Force. One of the things I've been focusing on also is survivors, because many families or survivors of gun violence are left behind, and they don't have the resources, the mental health support that they need. So that's something that I want to continue to work on in the 117th Congress after I get reelected. So yes, thank you for asking about that.
Of course, and you mentioned the pandemic in your remarks, so I just let's go there next. Tell me about like how, I mean, again, I mentioned it in my opening remarks, like the Senate would rather confirm a conservative justice than do anything about COVID relief or economic recovery. So tell me, how is COVID-19 affecting your district? And in your mind, what do effective COVID relief and economic recovery measures look like in general, but in South Florida?
Yeah, Reggie, unfortunately, because of failed leadership here in the state by our governor and also by the county mayor, Miami-Dade County became the epicenter of infections of COVID in the entire country, and with higher numbers than some countries combined, by the way. So we were hit hard. And because our community is mostly a community of color, Hispanics, African Americans, and we now know that this virus disproportionately impacts communities of color, we saw a high rate of infection and also a high mortality rate in this county. So we immediately got to work and we passed the CARES Act, as you know, which provided unemployment benefits, that round of stimulus checks. We have been working for the past, since May, it's been 4 months that we passed an additional relief package asking the Senate and this president to provide another round of stimulus checks, another round of PPP for small businesses, those minority-owned businesses that never got a chance to get those loans from the PPP program because the Senate didn't write it appropriately. Also, extending unemployment benefits through January 2021. That one of the top issues that we're facing here is food insecurity. I've gone to food distribution centers. Reggie, the lines are endless, and they're there for hours. And sometimes you see the same families coming every other day. And also a lot of the people that I'm talking to now are really scared that they're gonna be evicted from their apartments or their homes. So we need to provide mortgage and rent relief. It's something that we have to do. I cannot understand how Republicans can turn their backs on people that have lost their jobs, not for any fault of their own, by the way. We were hit this from one day to the next with a pandemic. And it's our job to act and protect the most vulnerable, our seniors, children, people that have underlying health conditions, our healthcare workers, our transportation workers. Can you believe that in the height of this pandemic, the bus continued to operate here in the county and they were never provided with the proper PPE equipment? And we lost some of our transportation workers because of the negligence of the county mayor, who is now trying to unseat me. He's the person that's running against me. I mean, that's unacceptable. It's unacceptable. We have to have the will and the courage and the commitment to work to do whatever we possibly can to provide that relief. So right now we're starting to see a little bit of an uptick again. I'm a little concerned because schools are back open. The kids are going back to school, like I said earlier. So we need to be extremely careful, especially because we have a vulnerable population down here. And it's not just because we have a community of color. We also have an older population.
Totally.
We have a lot of nursing facilities, long-term living facilities. We can do this. When did America give up? If we were able to send the first man on the moon, we are able to control the spread of a contagious virus. We are able to provide the relief that American families need and reopen businesses safely, right? We can do that. But unfortunately, there's a lot of incompetence in the Senate, in the White House, and in the governor's office here, and also in the county office here. I mean, it's just incredible to me.
Yeah, I don't say this often, but like I went to Yale undergrad, so did Rick DeSantis, and so like DeSantis makes all Yaleys look bad. I'm just really sad by that. We don't want to dignify him with too much, but I feel your pain. I totally feel your pain. And you have some of the most beautiful topography, as well as some of the most threatened in the Florida Keys and the Everglades, which are part of your district. So, and nearly every hurricane in the Atlantic Ocean has a threat of impacting Florida and impacting your part of the world. Having lived there, I'm fully aware of that. So tell me what you think needs to be done in terms of environmental protections and climate change? Again, because like I said, you have the coral reef that you mentioned, the Everglades, the Keys, and like you're the southernmost point on the Atlantic.
Yeah, and we are a very delicate ecosystem down here in the Keys and in South Florida, and we are definitely ground zero for the effects of climate change. And so we have to do two things. We need to take all preventive measures to be affected by stronger and stronger storms that we have seen, and we need to invest in mitigation efforts. I asked to sit down on the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee because that's the committee where we can actually oversee FEMA or oversee the Army Corps of Engineers. And they have this huge environmental project, which is Everglades restoration. They've been talking about Everglades restoration for 20 years. So when I got into office, I said, okay, what do I need to do to expedite this? So we were able to bring down $200 million in funding for Everglades restoration, which is critical to a healthy environment, to clean water, and for that water to flow down naturally to Florida Bay in our area. We've lost thousands and thousands of seagrass, acres of seagrass down in the Florida Bay. And that is really affecting marine life as well in our oceans. So I did that and this has been something that I've been able to get bipartisan support. I worked with a Republican in my committee to change the language so that we can expedite Everglades restoration. I've also brought significant funding to protect our coral reefs. We've seen that a combination of contamination in our waters, higher temperatures in our oceans, a high level of boating in the Florida Keys is really affecting our coral reefs. And there's a virus that right now has attacked our corals and the coral tissue, and we're losing coral reefs at an alarming rate. So I've worked with NOAA to bring down funding for research, and they're bringing all the different groups together here locally to do research and to do whatever we need to do to protect our coral reefs. The reefs are incredible. They're beautiful. They're the habitat for fish, but they also serve as a natural seawall for these strong storms. So they really are critical to our livelihood. I have a passion for the coral reefs. I'm a scuba diver, and one of the ads, I don't know if you ever saw it, Reggie, but one of my ads in 2018 was me underwater scuba diving, showing everyone how the coral reef. So you have to see it. You have to watch it.
The 116th Congress it's been an honor to work with y'all. And I want to ask you like two questions in closing. Like one, what has been your favorite moment or two about being in the 116th? And what gives you hope right now?
Okay, I'll start with hope. This young generation that stood up, regardless of race or where they came from, that stood up and started marching after that George Floyd video was released, demanding justice, walking together. The Hispanic community here marching alongside our Black brothers and sisters, demanding justice for everyone. That movement, that those voices from our young generation, that's what gives me hope. They are demanding change. They are much more engaged. They want to make a difference. That commitment, and that's my favorite thing to do, I have to say, when I talk to high school students or young college students, because they want to make a difference in this world. And they've had a very, very tough time, growing up in an age where gun violence has become an epidemic, where they have to go through active shooter drills. They have had to now face a pandemic where so many of them were not able to graduate from high school with their friends, or in college. They can't be in college with their friends their senior year. And they're incredible. Nothing is stopping them. They're trying to figure out ways to keep going and to make this a better place. And that's what gives me hope and optimism. And one of my favorite moments has been serving with the women of Congress, Reggie, and being all of us together, all dressed in white at the State of the Union, answering to a president that was just spouting lies, right, in the State of the Union. And I'm never going to forget when he was saying, okay, well, we need to lower the cost of prescription drug prices. And we had just passed in the House of Representatives a bill that would do just that. And all of us stood up at the same time, unanimously, all the women dressed in white, yelling back at this president, like, what are you talking about? HR 3, we passed it, do it. So the power of serving with my sisters in Congress, with so many women that come from all different backgrounds, has been one of the most incredible experiences that I've had in this Congress.
Yeah, and I thank you for that. And I mean, I know you got to go, but I want to do two things. One is that, like, put your hands together for me, cross your fingers, make wrist circles. This is hand yoga, Debbie. So for like all the texting and typing that you do, take them in the other direction.
I love it, Reggie.
How does this feel? Feels good?
Oh yeah. Wow.
Exactly.
You know, I'm getting a lot of pain back here. Anything that you suggest from all the typing and but I want to show something too, just that makes me that you may appreciate.
Okay.
So all this hand sanitizer, I have like my very own lavender. One of my friends in Congress, Lori from Massachusetts, she had it. I found it.
Yeah.
Everyone, with all the hand sanitizing that we're having to do, this one smells, it's lavender, and it just all good energy.
Peaceful.
All good energy.
Peaceful.
Yeah.
Well, I'll send you and Carlos like some shoulder stuff, because you know I'll take care of you.
Yeah, I need the shoulder thing.
Where can people find out more about your campaign, and how can they support you?
Please go to debbieforcongress.com and sign up to volunteer. If you can contribute, please. It's one of the most expensive races also. I'm asking for all the help. Contributions, calls, text messages, good energy through social media. Follow me at Debbie for Florida, at Debbie FORFL is my Twitter handle. Instagram, I don't know what it's the same thing in Instagram. Sorry guys, I'm a little behind with the Instagram thing. But that's my Twitter handle. My Facebook page, the same thing. Find me, share my story, follow me, send me good energy, call, text. We're all in this together, like everyone's saying. And I am feeling very optimistic. I think people have woken up, and I think people are engaged, and I think we're going to do this. We're going to get this done November 3rd.
Well, you know that however I can support you personally and organizationally, we will do. I promised you this when I met you. Here I am following through, so know that. And thank you, dear Debbie, and Patrick, and Carlos, and Andrew, and all the staff.
Yeah.
I appreciate them, and I'm proud to call you a friend.
Yes.
And however I can be helpful to you, please let me know. I know you got to go. So
thank you, Reggie. Thank you for having me. I'm going to try to tune in for your Sunday show.
Please do. So 8 p.m. And
how much?
I'll let you all know when. If you can only see the Hamilton piece, I'll let you know when that is.
Okay. Right all right. Well, have a good night. Stay safe. Sending you good energy my way.
Indeed. Love and grace. Ciao.
Bye. Bye.
And so everyone, as we can head into the home stretch of the election, let's be focused on the task at hand. So channel anxiety into purposeful motion. Remember, it's a privilege to fight for what is right and create a better world in the face of seemingly insurmountable challenges. And if we have health, breath, and unity, there's nothing we cannot accomplish. Politics and Flows, Big Ideas, episode 13 with Debbie Mucarsel-Powell, over and out.
Elections matter. Justice is on the ballot. Justice is on the ballot when 1 in 5 mothers has hungry children. Justice is on the ballot when millions of people just lost their jobs, many of whom did not have paid sick leave, paid family leave, many of whom don't have affordable childcare. Justice is on the ballot when we look at the disparities around whose children and where they're living geographically have access to broadband to be able to be educated at home, much less have a laptop. Justice is on the ballot when you look at the disproportionate number of African Americans and Latinos who have been afflicted with and have died from COVID-19. Justice is on the ballot when people in our country are struggling like they are right now. So we got to get everybody out to vote. We got to take back the Senate. We got to retain our majority in the House. And we need to win the White House and elect Joe Biden.